different perspective about how best to relate to their father, who is the patriarch of a large and prosperous land. One day, an aging father called his 4 grown children to get ready to embark on a long journey with him. He didn't specify where they were going or what purpose the journey was for, and it was so unexpected that the 4 siblings began to speculate amongst themselves. The eldest, named Under, said,
"This must be a test from the old man. I must contribute my money to fund this important trip and be on my best behavior so Father sees that I honor and respect him. After all, haven't I always been the first to give up my seat for Father and to give him the first and best portion of our family meals? He always treats us good when we behave."
The second-born, named Over, then said,
"Oh, you just want to make sure Father doesn't get angry. You're afraid that when Father gets angry, he'll make your life a living hell. Well, I don't need to worry about what Father thinks. I can make my own plans based on my own wits. I've noticed that our farming equipment has been wearing down, and it's time to replace them. I bet that's why we're going on this journey, and Father wants to show us how to make the best purchases. Luckily for you all, I've been researching the latest innovations, and I know how to negotiate for the best equipment based on critical and popular reviews."
Next, the third-born, named From, spoke up.
"I don't care where we're going on this trip, as long as Father gets us first-class seats on the way there. It's been a while since Father has taken us out. We are members of the ruling family in this land after all, so people expect that we have certain privileges. We should travel in style and comfort, which shows how prosperous and generous our Father is."
Finally, the youngest, named Four, said,
"All of you are so selfish. You only think of yourselves. Hasn't our Father always taught us to treat others the way we want to be treated? We should be thinking about how we can help the people that we meet during this journey. We should get to know the people of the land and see what they need and what we can do for them. That's how we can obey Father and make him proud."
All the siblings then started arguing about which was the best way of making Father proud. Under says, "Be submissive." Over says, "Be informed." From says, "Be blessed." And For, "Be dutiful." They were so engrossed in their banter that they didn't realize when their father came into the room.
"My children, please stop bickering. You each have a unique way of relating to me. Under, you believe in sticking to rituals and moral behavior in order to gain favor with me, in order to bargain for good outcomes in life. Over, you are a scientist who believes that good things come through maximizing proven principles and strategies. From, you are a consumer who views me as a divine butler or holy vending machine to supply what you need or desire. For, you are a worker who obeys me by doing lots of good works. I love each and every one of you, but all the ways that you propose will not make me proud. All that I ever will want is just to be with you, my children, whom I also like to consider as my friends."
The father then invited them to join him for dinner. And as the children followed after him, they were each pondering how best to be with their father, not just during the upcoming journey, but during each precious moment they had together in their daily lives. So give a round of applause to our readers. Thanks to each of them for portraying a character that represents a different preposition or a different posture of the directional relationship that you can have with God, who is our Father. So this is a framework that's discussed in a book called With by Sky Jasani. So Wendy, Susan, and I have been reading through this book one chapter at a time per month over the past year, and we have the pleasure of sharing some highlights with you today. I'll start with putting it into context through Scripture, and then each one of us will share a posture that stood out to us. So 1 Corinthians is well known to be the book of or chapter of love. Right? Many will recognize it from verse 4 onwards, where it says, love is patient, love is kind, it always protects, trusts, hopes, and perseveres. But today, I want to draw your attention to the initial verses of that chapter. It says, if I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If all I possess to the poor, and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. The word of the Lord. So these verses actually show some examples of those 4 prepositions of relating to God. Do you notice them? First, to speak in tongues could be one part of receiving the miraculous gifts from God, which characterizes the life from God posture. Second, the ability to understand the mysteries and possess all knowledge reflects the life over God posture. Third, having faith to move mountains shows a part of the life under God posture. And fourth, giving your all to service reveals the life for God posture. And none of these will benefit us without love, which is the key to a life with God posture. In the book of love, chapter of love, verse 8 continues on to say, love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. And where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And it ends with, the greatest of these is love. So which preposition do you identify with? As I said, Wendy, Susan, and I will each share about a posture, and so I'll invite Wendy up to share with us now.
Hi, everyone. Can all hear me? Okay. So I think I know most of you, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Wendy. I joined F3C in 2016 when I was doing my undergrad at UBC. And I was an active member of this community until about the end of 2020, at which point I made a difficult decision to step away from church for a time, in part because I was realizing the way that I was relating to God wasn't really working for me anymore. And so about a year later, when I was about to move to Toronto for the second year of my master's, Janet approached me with this idea of a book club. And she shared about this book that she'd heard about, and I looked at it, and the premise was interesting to me and relevant, and it seemed like a safe way to continue to be in conversation with Christian friends about where my faith was at. And so in reading the book, the posture that resonated with me right away was the life for God posture. So I'm just going to read a quote that really stood out to me from the chapter in the book. The author writes, "College students often worry about what awaits them after graduation. This is a reasonable concern for any young adults, but for many of them, the worry extends far beyond finding a job with benefits. They fixate and some obsess about making a difference in the world. They fear living lives of insignificance. They worry about not achieving the right things or not enough of the right things. Behind all of this is the life for God belief that their value is determined by what they achieve. I've learned that when a student asks me, what should I do with my life, what he or she really wants to know is how can I prove that I am valuable? Life for God takes our fear of insignificance and throws gasoline on it. The resulting fire may be presented to the world as a godly ambition, a holy desire to see God's mission advance, the kind of drive evident in the Apostle Paul's life. But when these flames are fueled by fear. They reveal none of the peace, joy, or love displayed by Paul. The relentless drive to prove our worth can quickly become destructive. So in reading this, I was like, this is me, exactly. Growing up in an atheist, first-generation Chinese-Canadian family, I learned really early on that my worth is tied to my achievements and my performance. And when I became Christian at the end of high school, I think I unknowingly imported that fundamental belief into my Christian life. And so my approach was the same. It was just the criteria that I changed. So instead of academic achievement, I began to measure my worth by what I saw as the Christian markers of success. So did I wake up early in the morning and do quiet time? Did I devote a significant amount of time to church and other Christian ministries? Did I talk to my non-Christian friends about Jesus and pray for them regularly? Did I share the gospel with a stranger? And I think at that time, because I was nearing undergrad, a big question was, am I going to go into full-time ministry or overseas missions? Can I be faithful to God if I don't? So for many years, driven by my fear of inadequacy, I was zealous in my pursuit of what I thought a Christian life was supposed to be like. But inside, I was consumed by anxiety and self-loathing and guilt and pride and judgment. None of the peace or love or joy that I felt like I was supposed to be filled with as a Christian. So when I felt like I wasn't meeting the standards that I thought God had for me, I felt really anxious. And I felt like I was never good enough as a Christian. At the same time, I would feel guilty for trying to earn God's approval by good works instead of accepting His love for me as I was. On the other hand, when I was successful, I would feel really prideful, and then I would judge other Christians for not taking their faith seriously enough. So, as some of you might know firsthand, or if not, maybe you can imagine, it was really tiring to live that way. And so by the end of my undergrad, I increasingly felt like this just wasn't working anymore, this life for God posture. It was the only way I knew how to relate to God, but it didn't seem sustainable. And so that was when I began a journey, and I'm still on, of unlearning some things that have been unhelpful, and trying to figure out what does a life with God look like for me. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Wendy. Oh, it's hard to follow now. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Susan. I've been going to this church probably for, I think, 8 years. I'm married to Chris. He's not here today. He's a bit tired, so he's staying home, having a nap. I have 2 children sitting over there. I'm mom now, quit working after I had my second child, and I'm basically soccer mom, baseball mom, whatever the sport of the season calls. I'm mom. I'm going to speak a bit about life from God, because that's the part that resonated with me. In the past 2 weeks, I did find myself praying a lot to God, asking for protection for Chris, my husband, because he was suffering from COVID. I asked for protection for the rest of us, that we didn't get COVID from him, or that my mother-in-law wouldn't get COVID from him. I asked for God for the strength to carry us through COVID, because it's challenging to sort of do it all on your own. When you've got a sick person in quarantine, having to make meals and give him the meals, pass it through the tray to prisoner. We called him prisoner 000. I asked for strength to maintain the household, to keep the children alive, to keep them happy, to keep them fed, as they were dealing with, is Dad going to die? No, Dad's not going to die. Let's still have fun. So fortunately, Chris had mild symptoms from COVID, and fortunately we were able to isolate from him as we shoved him in the basement and let him work, eat, sleep, live in the basement. And fortunately, the three of us did not catch it from him, and I think we still haven't caught it from him. Fortunately, we actually had a pretty good time, I would say, over the past 2 weeks. During baseball season, I am heavily into baseball as I'm baseball mom. Again, parents here with kids in sports, it's nerve-wracking when you're watching your child in sports. Whenever Eric stepped up to the plate, I would find myself praying, please God, let him hit the ball. When he's in the outfield, he's catching that pop fly, he's looking around, he's worried, I'm like, please God, let him catch that ball. As a parent, you want your child to succeed. You don't want to watch them fail. It is hard watching them fail. When Maddie was struggling with whether or not to continue with her RCM exams, I prayed and asked God, please soften her heart and open up her mind so she could see my way. After a year of praying, God finally did answer my prayers. He did open someone's heart, and he did open someone's mind. And it wasn't Maddie's. I'm also a Costco mom, proud Costco member. When I love Costco, I know. Whenever I'm at Costco, I pick up something and think, does God want me to have this? But all joking aside, I do have to say our family is very blessed. We have the ability to be consumers. We have the comforts of the ability to enjoy baseball, to participate in sports. We have the ability to have piano lessons. We live in a nice home. I drive a car. I can fill my car with gas. We are very blessed, and we enjoy the comforts of life. But what is it that I want from God? Do I want him to provide the good things in life to me? I like nice things. I really do. Is it okay for Christians to have nice things? But do these things bring glory to God, or do they distract me from my relationship with God? Do they make my life so comfortable, so easy and smooth, that I forget about my struggles, or my fears and my pain? Do I seek God in the good times as well as the bad? As a mom, I wear many different hats, like baseball, music mom, wife, everything. And these different hats constantly pull me in different directions, whether it be serving at church, whether it be school, sports, wife, daughter. There's just so many different hats that I wear each and every day. It's those many little jobs that just add up to what seems like an insurmountable big job. And in my busyness, it's really easy to push aside God. There's so much to do, and sometimes I have so little time to do it all in, and it's easy to push God aside. And when I do have time for God, do I go to him and ask him for something? Do I seek him when it serves me best? Do I seek him when I'm crumbling under the pressure and under the workload and I have nowhere else to turn? In a life from God, I have reduced God to his usefulness for me. I ask, what has God done for me lately? But Jesus does tell us that we should ask God for what we need. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this passage from Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 to 11. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how
how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So this doesn't mean that everything we seek from God is selfish. I think the question for me becomes, how do I relate to God? Is God an instrument for me to use for, is he a means to an end? When I need help, I seek him, I ask for help. Do I seek to control God in order to grant me things? Or do I ask for help when I need it? Do I seek his will instead of my own? Do we ask without expectation of the answer that I want? In order to do so, I have to give up control of what it is that I want and allow for what it is that God wants. So in my struggles of life from God, I recognize that I'm very blessed. I also have to recognize the other end of things, that it is his will that will be done and not mine. Thank you. And I can identify with the life over God posture. I'm logical, I'm practical, I'm in a science-based profession, and I'm joined by many others in our current culture of secular humanism, in which instead of superstition, we gain control over our own faiths through science and well-established principles. Especially in this globalized information age, we have a wealth of knowledge at our fingertips, literally with my smartphone and laptop. I can look up answers for anything, whether it's little things like where to find the best sushi or how to fix a flat tire, to even bigger things like vaccine recommendations or how to start a new business. And we're smart enough to discern quality sources of information and not just rely on misleading or fake news. But I can find myself going through each day doing so many things. Even in my downtime, it's filled with things like reading or screen time. But at the end of the day, I find I might not have paid much attention to God at all. I know he's always there, but it's like I suppress him to the background while I'm living over him, relying on my own strength and smarts to get through the day. So I'm learning to live with God. John 15:5 quotes Jesus saying, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." Well, I'm a doer. I make things happen. Obviously, I can do a lot, seemingly, without much of Jesus. But I do recognize a difference when I'm intentional about partnering with God. Without that intention, what I do is a lot of striving, and it feels like an uphill battle. But with intention of being with God throughout the process, my load feels light, my work is joyful, and it can be even more enlightened than what I could ever come up with on my own. To live with God is to be in a thriving relationship with him. And I'm sure most of you know, to have a good relationship with someone, you need to regularly check in with one another. You need to establish trust in deep and authentic ways. Or else you drift apart, or you remain as strangers or acquaintances at best. So I end with a wise saying, we are human beings, not human doings. So I'm learning to do less striving on my own and to be with God in more thriving ways. Now, we invite you to get into groups of 2 or 3 others. Try to mix it up so you're not just with your own family. Please share with one another your responses to these 2 discussion questions. Which posture or postures
can you see in yourself, whether in the past or currently? And what does the posture of living with God mean to you? How can you live with Him rather than under, over, from, or for God on a daily basis? Okay, so break off in pairs or 3 maximum. We'll have about 10 minutes to share in total. Wendy will help keep us track of time, and so I think she'll make an announcement at the midpoint if you want to switch from one question to the next, and then as well as maybe a 1-minute warning as the time is up. And kids can participate too, because Auntie Susan and I can lead a group of kids to talk about what life with God might mean, even for kids. Questions? All right. Find your partner or partners.